Hello, it is September the 5th, 2020. Oh, how this year is flying by, although, in no sense, it's dragging by. But we're already 5 days into September. Busy week, uh, bill related stuff, paying my bills, setting up some stuff, talking with some friends, some nice stuff happening, which is all very good. And I was talking with a friend, and it sparked a story in my head I hadn't thought about for a bit. Back in the 80s, I remember, and it was 1985. In the course of 2 weeks, I saw the band the Motels, not once but three times, three different venues, three different situations. The first time was at Toad's Place in New Haven, where they were the lead act, and opening for them was a then unknown but soon to be known band called The Outfield, who had whatever that song was, I don't want to lose your love tonight, that song. And they were very nice and they were great, and the Motels were great. And then I think it was later that week or early the next week, I saw the Motels at Radio City Music Hall in New York City as an opener for Supertramp. And it was for their Brother Where You Bound tour, which was their first tour without Roger Hodgson. Great show, Motels were great, shorter set. And then I saw them after that, maybe it was later that same week, um, as the lead act at not Toads, what am I saying? The West Hartford Agora in West Hartford, Connecticut. I don't remember who their opening act was, but that gig was of note to me because I was backstage with a friend talking with the ever lovely and ever wonderful Martha Davis, lead singer of the Motels, when she grabbed my face and put the lip lock on me. And I did not mind that one bit at all. She was memorable. And in the course of our conversation, she had mentioned that she was dealing with a slight cold. And I remember afterwards my friend saying to me, "Why did you let her kiss you when you knew she had a cold?" Which I just thought was insane because there's no bad answer there. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, so first off, Martha Davis wants to kiss me? Yes, please. Yes is the answer. Yes is always the answer. Because let's say, just to speculate, let's say I then got ill, which I did not, by the way, but let's say I did. What's that conversation? What's the matter, John? Well, I got a cold. How did you get it? Martha Davis, the lead singer from the Motels, was kissing me, and I caught it from her. That's a story you'd be able to tell all your life now, isn't it? Um, but I didn't catch a cold. And as a postscript, that was 1985. Here we are in 2020. At this point, I can say Martha Davis is a pal. We exchange a lot of emails. We've talked on the phone. We get along. She's a really swell person. And while she's way off on the West Coast, I'll bet she's still a really damn good kisser. So as I was kind of like going nostalgia this week, thinking about this and that, on a separate note, I was thinking about, and this had to be, I want to say the early 1990s. I was in New York City at, it was either the Museum of Broadcasting or the Museum of the Moving Image, whichever one is in the 50s in the city. And wonderful place at the time. I assume it's still the same. What you would do is you would go in and you make an appointment. and you'd get a 2 hour slot, and they gave you access to their database, and you could pick. There was either 4 or 6 different shows from any era. They had all sorts of interesting things, and this was in uh, a day when you couldn't really get a lot of this old TV stuff as much as you can now. And I mean, some of the stuff they have you still can't get really. And so then they usher you into a room with a piece of paper that has numbers and letters like A3 or whatever, and you go sit in a really comfy chair in front of a nice large TV with a pair of nice headphones, comfortable headphones, and you punch in whatever, and each one corresponds to the shows you've chosen, and you have up to 2 hours. So I've done that. It was just a nice day to relax, and it was a good time. It was and I loved watching. I seem to remember I was watching some old Johnny Carson Tonight shows. I remember there was an old from the '60s black and white one. It was an anniversary show, and it had like Bob Hope and Sammy Davis Jr. and Jack Benny, I want to say, was on it. A bunch of other people. More than likely, George Gobel was in there somewhere. It was just wonderful to watch that kind of stuff. And heading back down to Grand Central, and I believe a couple of blocks west, I ended up at this wonderful, wonderful French patisserie. And I had, to this day, the greatest dessert of my life. And I forget what it's called. It's like a raspberry entima, something like that. I'm probably just I'm having some fla fla fla. What it was it was like was a triangular piece cut for me, and the bottom layer, and this is like layer. Bottom layer was like a thin cake, I'll say like a golden cake, beautiful cake, and then on that was this raspberry mousse. On the raspberry mousse were raspberries, and on top of all that was like, I guess like a raspberry, like a glacé. It was transparent yet raspberry, raspberrylicious, raspberrific. And so those layers repeated several times. And I remember going and sitting at one of their nice little tables in a comfy chair. And my first bite, my mouth said, "John, this is so incredible. You don't even really deserve this, do you? You are not fine enough a human being to deserve this paradise of a dessert." And yet I was. And so every bite was like a gift. It was just, it smelled beautiful, it tasted, and the play of the textures against each other and with each other, it was glorious. I've never had a dessert that matched the beauty and the deliciousness of that. And it was only $2 or $3 at the time, and this was, again, I want to say it was the early 90s, no later than the mid 90s. Um, and it was a place, I think I went there once more to meet up with my friend Cheryl, and I remember she wanted to have meringues. So we had some meringues there, and those were beautiful as well, but they weren't that dessert. And then it vanished. It was one of those things that might be a Twilight Zone thing where it only existed on certain days, and then you couldn't find it. Um, but oh, what a treat! And I'm rambling, and I think that's a good point to say thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next week. I hope all is well with everyone, and drop me a line. I love hearing from my friends. Take care. Bye bye.